Good evening. Welcome to the February 18th meeting of the Arcata City Council. The City Council meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting with both in-person attendance and teleconference access via Zoom. So we'll start with our land acknowledgement. The City of Arcata acknowledges that the lands we are located on are the unceded ancestral lands of the Wiyot tribe. The land that Arcata rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Arcata acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement seeks to aid in dismantling the legacy narratives of settler colonialism. If you would like to, you may join us for the flag salute. Will the city clerk please take roll?
Vice Mayor Atkins Salazar,
Here.
Councilmember Stillman, Councilmember Matthews,
Here.
Mayor White and Councilmember Schaefer are absent, but we do have a quorum.
Thank you. If you wish to make a comment during the meeting, either for an individual agenda. Yeah, but I'm just giving them some general. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. It's okay. If you wish to make a comment during the meeting, either for an individual agenda item or during the second oral and written communications period under agenda item 12, there are 3 ways to do so. If you are here in person, we ask that you please line up behind the podium when the item you would like to speak on is accepting public comment. If you are logged on to Zoom, click raise your hand when it is time for comment on the item on which you wish to speak. And if you are on the phone, press *9 on your phone to raise your hand. And when it is your turn, you will be prompted to dial *6 on your phone. For these items, we will be taking in-person public comment first and then move to the online comments. We will not be going back and forth. So if you are waiting to comment, please line up at the podium or raise your electronic hand as soon as public comment is requested for that item. Our next item is to receive the annual report from the Historic Landmarks Committee, and I believe we have the chair, Bill Rich, here to give us that report.
Hi, thanks for having me this evening. I looked over the last year's worth of agendas and spoke with David a little bit. Thanks for that time today. And, it just reminds me how much fun the Historic Landmarks Committee really is. And I hope you find also the value in the committee. And so it was kind of fun just to look over the old agendas for this last year. So I'm here to give you a brief report. I know you have probably what we put out in your packet. I didn't bring that today, so hopefully I remember those things. But if you have any questions for me that I can take back to the committee, please holler. This was a good year. We decided in the beginning of the year to make our meetings every other month. Our committee members are working professionals, basically. We volunteer our time, but everybody is quite busy. And I think doing a bi-monthly for our committee was really helpful. We had 5 meetings this year, 3 regular meetings and 2 special meetings. And I think most of our committee members attended those meetings. And so that's different than the year prior where we're struggling to get everybody to come. Our committee had no changes this year. We have Ron Perry, who's an educator, Joe McDonald, who's a historic preservation specialist and a local realtor, Jeanette Cooper, who's also an educator and a historian, Tim O'Keefe from he's I guess recently retired actually from Caltrans, archaeologist and historian from Caltrans, and myself. Dilo is our staff liaison with David. And we have a hoot every other month. We get together here, and it's kind of special. I think those individuals are professionals in their field, and I think it's a real asset to have everybody come together once a month and talk about matters that affect the city of Arcata. our community history. That's kind of the over thing of what we did. But every year we like to do something for Historic Preservation Month. That's May. This year we did table at the farmers market on Saturday. It was really windy. Ended up being quite windy that day, but we got a lot of interest. We collaborated with the Historic Site Society of Arcata, who run the Phillips House up the hill here. Some nice, I wish I remember everybody's name, that came from the Historic Site Society and helped us at our table. We also kind of collaborated with Steve Lazar. He's a historian and has a website called the Humboldt Project. You should check it out, the Humboldt Project. He's a postcard collector. And so he's really an avid kind of poster on his postcards that he collects. And so we took some of his scans and made some QR codes and posted them around town at the location where those photos were taken back years ago, to try to convey, a sense of place or a sense of history. I think we all like when we can hold up those old photos and see the same image, and so we tried to do that around town. I think maybe some of those HR codes are maybe still up. So we thought Preservation Month this last year was a hit. We look forward to doing that again, something fancy. And if anybody has any good ideas for what to do, we'd be really interested in hearing that. An important thing that we did this year, I felt, I can't believe it, but I've been on this committee since 2014, and am honored to do that. And almost the whole time we've been talking about the Arcata Historic Context Statement. This is a document that the city will put forward that really outlines the context of our history here, starting with the indigenous, the long time the indigenous people were here, the Wiyot people, and bringing it right up through to almost the present. Arcata is rich in its history, from the pre-contact record as well as the built environment, all of our buildings and homes and other structures that are around town. And so the city has been trying to put all that into writing, and in one document, in one place. It's a context, it's a formal statement. And so we've been working on that for a long time. And finally this year, I think, are at a place where our committee is happy with it. And it's my understanding that now the city is one last time passing it back through the tribes, so that the tribe can have some input on this language. It's a pretty important bit of work, and we want to get it right. And so I'm really happy that we've made it this far on the historic context statement, and someday maybe it'll be online in an official way and we can all be referring to it. It'll help your staff, it'll help us in the community. So context statement, we kind of got it through our committee. Another really fun project that we did this year that I wanted to talk about was the Monroe Barn. This is a barn that the city owns. It's a small barn. You might not have ever really seen it. It's over off of Old Arcata Road, just past Jacoby Creek on the right. It's a cute little barn, maybe one of the oldest barns in town. And so the city owns this building. There's some work that needs to be done on that barn to keep it in good condition. There's some stabilization efforts that need to be done to kind of keep it. And so we decided to meet at the barn, our committee, and have a tour. The city hired a professional to kind of assess the integrity of the building. His name's Bill Hull. If you've not met Bill, you should meet Bill, because he will really make you excited about history and about buildings. And we met, and Bill did exactly that again for us all at the barn with your staff liaison, Emily. And that was a really special field trip, and I hope our committee can take more field trips, and I look forward to that. So the Monroe Barn, we made some recommendations to the city to basically start with kind of a stabilization effort, keep the roof intact. And so there was some, so you could, so the Monroe Barn was really great. It prompted a question of our committee back to Alex and others. What other historical buildings does the city own? Is the Monroe Barn the most important one that we should be worried about right now? Or maybe there's others. Or what other buildings are important enough to acknowledge? And Alex responded, the one we're in right now may be one of those type of buildings. A building needs to be 50 years or older to be kind of considered historically significant under the purview of California national historic preservation laws. So the Monroe Barn is an important building, probably built in the early 1850s. The main structure has no nails. The main structure is put together with wooden pegs. It's a really neat barn, and it's an asset to the city, in my opinion, and Bill Hull's opinion as well. Another important thing that we did is we continued to talk about the Arcata Plaza, just the interior part of the plaza, not all the buildings and businesses on the outside of the plaza, just the interior area. This has been, the city has been interested in pursuing a National Register nomination for that location, for that area. And it has taken several years and several different drafts to get to the point where we are now. One of our committee members, Jeanette Cooper, she works up at the university in the anthropology department, and interfaced with one of her young fellow students that's up there, who's great. And he took it on as his first nomination document to write up this history. He chose criterion A for the plaza, significance of the plaza under a broad umbrella of important events. Not necessarily the things that are out there, the trees or the fountain or the walks or those types of things, but more of what has happened there and the kind of community experiences at the plaza. So that nomination came through our committee several times. We had several special meetings for this, and our committee has said, good job, push it forward. So now this document will migrate through the city. David, help me if I'm wrong, migrate through the city and make its way to the State Historic Preservation Officer down in Sacramento at the Office of Historic Preservation. And their staff there will have a crack at this nomination and maybe provide some input, perhaps. If they like it, they will forward it to the National Park Service for inclusion into the National Register of Historic Places. That's pretty cool. If this can be achieved, I think it could be. There's many examples around of this kind of place. Well, actually not very many, but there's many buildings and other places around that meet these criteria, and we think that the plaza will also. That will bring some social credits, social licensing, social acknowledgement. There could be some signage that's put up along the highway, for example, or in other places, directing people to the plaza. QR codes could be used and to interpret this history of the plaza. And so anyway, so our committee got through several drafts of that, and we've said, good. It will come back as one more time for a very quick little wordsmithing stuff. But Patrick O'Rourke, who wrote this nomination, did a great job. And we're really appreciative of his volunteer time to write this many-page document, really detailing the history of the plaza. That's kind of what we've been doing. We don't get a lot of public coming to our meeting, but I would like to thank two women who come to our meeting, two individuals that come regularly and give us really fun feedback. And I think those community members that come and say things at our meeting and bring up good points or bring things that we forgot, they really make me a better chairperson. And I think it makes our committee better as well. And so I just wanted to say thank you to those two community members who come. We're looking forward. I think that this bi-monthly schedule is exciting and keeps people fresh, keeps our committee members fresh and engaged. We're looking forward to the next year. We think there's lots of things that could be done around town. We think our value is to support the council and to support the city staff when making decisions regarding historic preservation. Some of the neighborhood surveys that we've done in the years past, where we've inventoried whole groups, whole neighborhoods of buildings to try to understand what's important about them, what should be preserved, or what can we let go. We think are important endeavors that our committee can continue with. And so there's other neighborhoods we could keep moving forward through. With kind of a windshield survey. These are kind of broad, coarse-grained type surveys. We want to help the city in their streamlining of permitting of at the counter and these kinds of decisions when applicants are coming forward with great projects. We want that to be streamlined, and there's like a streamline versus preservation kind of thing that we're dealing with. And I'm pretty sure our committee with the professionals that are in our committee can really help in that regard. So that's kind of what we do. We, as always, look forward to engagement from different history organizations, tribes, and so we're always reaching out to those folks and organizations and governments to bounce ideas off of. So that's something we'll continue with as we move forward. I think that's probably about everything I wrote down in my notes. Is there any questions or anything?
Thank you. We appreciate your enthusiasm and, and just for all the work that the committee is doing. Are there any questions or comments for Chairperson Rich?
Well, I was just thinking when you were saying what's important, like this building definitely is. So is the Lutheran Church, designed by the same person. I was thinking about Redwood Park. Redwood Park originally, years ago, when you could travel, come up here, was a park where people could camp out and they could stay in different units that they had. We only have a few buildings that are left up there. One you just had a meeting in, or anyway, we're going to be up there soon. And the other is the Boy Scout hut.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever been in it?
I'm not sure I know the Boy Scout hut, but I know the bigger building on the right as you kind of come up. My
Up
son
a little
did-
trail, there's this, what they call it'd be an interesting place sometime to go, to see it. Anyway, I would thank you very much for everything you've done. I liked serving on your committee when I did, and I'm really proud of what we've done as far as historic preservation is concerned. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be part of this committee and to be serving behind people who served on it before. And I look forward to continuing this. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love hearing that, and I love that we have so many committees with people that have been serving for so many years, and I just really appreciate all the time that you take to serve and your obvious enthusiasm. So again, thank you. And anything that is signage, I'm all for, that directs people to historic buildings. So again, I really appreciate you and your team. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to our oral and written communications, the early portion. The City Council values your comments, and public comment period allows people to address the council on matters that are not on the agenda. This early section of public comment is limited to 15 minutes, and speakers are limited to 2 minutes each. If you prefer to have a full 3 minutes of your time for public comment, this item is continued at the end of the meeting under item 12, where speakers are granted 3 minutes. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements. There will also be time to provide public comment specific to each item when that item is being reviewed by the council. So now is the time to make your way to the podium for early oral communications, if we've got anyone. It looks like we don't have anyone in person yet. Do we have anyone online?
No, we do not.
Okay, so we have the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. We have the approval to waive reading of the text and consent to read by title only for any ordinance on this agenda. B, approve the minutes of the City Council's special meeting of February 4th, 2026. C, approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of February 4th, 2026. D is biweekly report on disbursements. E is adopt resolution number 256-38, extending the local emergency caused by the downtown fire on January 2nd, 2026. F, approve a lease agreement with Robert L. Figes for a portion of the 4700 West End Road property and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. G, approve a $2,500 sponsorship for Bright and Green to provide reusable dishware at community events, including the Saturday Arcata Farmers Market. And H, approve an amendment to the agreement for franchise agreement negotiation assistance with CSG Consultants, Inc. in the amount of $20,000 with the term extended to October 31st, 2026, and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. Would any council member or staff like to remove any item from the consent calendar?
I don't need to.
Okay, let's go ahead and see if we have any members of the public that would like to comment on any portion of the consent calendar items. If so, come on up or raise your hand on Zoom.
Hi everyone. I want to thank you guys for having that on the 2500, but I also want to raise awareness that Arcata is really positioned to be a leader in the reuse movement, not just here for the state of California, but throughout the United States. We've already proven to be able to do that with 25 weeks of reusables that we provided for the Arcata Farmers Market just last year. But events and vendors themselves struggle to provide the funding, to provide the startup costs pretty much to this reuse infrastructure. And I believe that the city has a responsibility, and I believe that it's already in pretty much our plans to support infrastructure such as reuse infrastructure, just like we're supporting recycling, composting, but I'm talking about something much simpler and much more circular for our local economy, for local green jobs. Our workforce training program is incredible as well. And I'm gonna share just a little bit. We just got a letter of support, of strong support for Bright and Green and our funding request as well from the North Coast Growers Association. And I'm just gonna share a little bit at the end here. Their reusable dishware service has been valuable and practical solution to reducing single-use waste. Bright and Green's service has been well received by our vendors and market attendees by providing reusable plates, bowls, utensils, along with collection, washing, and redistribution. They help event organizers significantly cut down on landfill waste, lower event cleanup burdens, and model sustainable practices. Their presence deeply aligns with Arcata's long-standing commitment to environmental stewardship and zero waste principles. Bright and Green goes above and beyond to communicate effectively with event staff, support vendors, and transitioning away from disposable serviceware and educate attendees about the environmental benefits of reuse systems. Their service has improved overall quality and sustainability of our events. Community events like ours operate on tight budgets with limited grants available to support services like this. While we prioritize sustainability, the added expense of reusable dishware systems is challenging. If we're going to be able to support events like the farmers market like we did last year, we need to up our ask, and I want to encourage the city to continue supporting Bright and Green in larger ways as well as we move forward towards our economic strategic planning and possibly reconsidering recology funding as well. That's not too much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry, and I just want to say that I appreciate the city's support, strong support for this Bright and Green service at community events on the plaza and elsewhere. As we all know, the BBC called us one of the most sustainable small towns in the US, and a lot of what they were talking about was the marsh and maybe some other things. I guarantee you that the future is bright and green in terms of this potential for this project to really make a mark in our community and spread out throughout the country even. I actually shared the bright and green concept with a friend of mine who is a climate journalist, lives in Maine, and he had a person on his podcast who wrote a book about garbage, and we sent information to that author about this project, and he was very fascinated by it. So the sequel to his book might include our Bright and Green project here. So I really do thank the city for supporting it as much as you possibly can, both as a person and also financially. We need to let people know how important this is to our climate action plan, actually, the regional climate action plan. Waste is very energy intensive, and everything we can do to reduce greenhouse gas emissions is vitally important, and Bright and Green is one of those ways. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online?
No, we do not.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
I would so move.
I'll second.
And before we go to the vote, I just wanted to say that I had a really exciting conversation with Carly earlier in the week about this. And I did encourage her to, maybe to talk with environmental services and just keep those conversations going on how we can expand and grow this program. So thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So next we have old business, and we will be providing direction on potential projects the city may submit for funding under the State Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG. It's the 2025 Notice of Funds Availability, or NOFA. And I think we'll be starting with a staff report from our Community Development Director, David Loya.
You're going to get the first part of that staff report from the deputy director. If that's
That
okay.
sounds amazing.
Great. Let me start this slideshow here. All right. Good evening, council. Tonight we have a scoping hearing for the Community Development Block Grant. The purpose of the hearing is to get community feedback and council direction on which activities the city should apply for under the 2025 CDBG Notice of Funds Availability. So staff will be making a recommendation at the end of the hearing. We wanted to be clear that we didn't write that in the staff report because we wanted to encourage the community to bring forward their ideas for this funding. So we will be making a recommendation at the end here. Let me forward through. So I'm going to go over the background of CDBG, just a little bit of background on the program itself. I'm going to talk a little bit about what Arcata's used funds for previously, what funding is available this NOFA cycle, some eligible activity information, and then some application limits. So just some background on the application itself to give you a little bit more clarity. So CDBG funds are federal funds that are administered by the State Housing and Community Development Department, so HCD, and then those are passed through as grants to small jurisdictions like ours. CDBG funds help communities by supporting affordable housing, public services, infrastructure, and economic development activities. And all activities have to meet the national objective of benefiting low and moderate income residents. And what we're talking about right now is the 2025 allocation. Each NOFA does have a little bit different criteria, and so that's why we bring these forward. They're not all the same, and so each time there's some differences that may tweak what is eligible or what's competitive. So in the past, the city of Arcata has used CDBG funds for a wide variety of activities. Those include business loan program, multiple different planning efforts, most recently the neighborhood center assessment, rehabilitation of existing affordable housing, and then supports for new housing, as well as wastewater upgrades, and previously, kind of going back into the past, homebuyer assistance. So those are some of the activities that we've used CDBG funds for over the last few cycles. So for this SNOFA, there's $27 million that's available for funding. And the categories of public service, planning, housing programs, economic development programs, and all projects are the categories that the city would be eligible for. I want to acknowledge that this slide shows the funds Arcata would be eligible for, but not the total funds. This NOFA has a set aside for applicants who've not been awarded CDBG funds for the last 5 cycles. It also has a set aside for non-federally recognized tribes and colonias, which obviously we're not eligible for. So these are just the funds that we would be eligible to apply for in this NOFA. And of the total funding available, there's limits on how much the city can apply for per application based on activity. So for public services or planning, we can apply for up to $300,000. That's per activity. So if we wanted to apply for a public service and a planning, each of those could be $300,000. For programs, we can apply for up to $1.5 million. So that would be a housing or an economic development program. Business assistance would be considered a program. And then for all projects, no matter what they are, so for all project types, up to $3.3 million. So those are the different eligible activities and the limits associated with each of them. And then it gets a little more nuanced. So given the activity limits discussed, each jurisdiction can only apply for 3 activities and for a total of $3.6 million. So we couldn't apply, if you look back at the last slide, we couldn't apply for a $3.3 million project and a $1.5 million program. And there's differences here. So you can see we can apply for 1 project and 1 program, and then a public service or planning activity. We can apply for a project and then 2 public services or planning activities, so a combination thereof, or 1 program and 2 public service or planning activities. So those are the combinations that we can apply for in this NOFA. So to kind of put it into perspective, you couldn't apply for a business assistance program and a first-time homebuyer program. That wouldn't be something that would be eligible. You also couldn't similarly apply for 2 projects in this round of funding. So I'm going to turn it over to Director Loya to discuss the activities on the scoping list and the staff's recommendations based on both readiness and competitiveness. But I want to highlight, because this is a scoping hearing, there may be other eligible activities that come up from the public, and that may change our recommendation. So just wanted to be clear on that.
Thanks, Jen. And I did want to just reinforce and reiterate the idea that with scoping, we're really trying to source the community's dreams and desires for what we can do. Not all of them on the list are necessarily eligible for CDBG. But we don't reject ideas. The purpose of scoping is to take all ideas. And I'll talk a little bit about our scoping efforts in just a moment. I believe our next, just to go back 1 slide and to give a little bit of warning, we're proposing to do this grouping of 3 applications: 1 project, 1 program, and 1 planning out of the list here. So 1 grouping that we can do includes the under the ED activities on page 66 of your packet, the business assistance program, which includes both our business loan program and our microenterprise program, which the city's been very successful at using to support local businesses. With these programs, we make loans with different criteria to local businesses to help provide them gap funding to either grow or sustain their businesses. And our programs have been really successful at getting those loan funds back from our borrowers. They're successful businesses that are successfully paying us back, and then we can loan those funds out again. So it's a really effective way to take federal funds and inject them into our communities and reuse them in that way. After our study session on Little Lake the other day, the council provided some direction to start exploring ideas for Little Lake that involve both adaptation and sea level rise preparedness, as well as some commercial uses on the site. So kind of doubling down on the insights that we've had in the past. And Deputy Director Dart had a brilliant idea that we could use the planning and technical assistance money in the CDBG round to do that planning work that you asked us to do. At the time, I might have even mentioned that I didn't know that we had a source of funds to do that planning work, but she brilliantly pointed out that we could apply for CDBG for this. So we are recommending that you authorize us to notice for planning for the Little Lake property. And that would be, we think we could do that for $200,000. And then really there were two projects that rose to the top of the list that we think we would both be very competitive for, that will score well, and we won't, there won't be a lot of competition throughout the state for these kinds of projects. We think we have a good chance of being awarded. One is the Grove Multifamily Rehabilitation Project, which Councilmember Stillman added to the list in our last meeting on this topic. And then one is the water meter replacement project, which was recommended by our assistant city manager, who is also our finance director and has been watching our water, the amount of money that we pay for water and the amount of money we're recouping through our water meter fees, watch a gap spread because some of our water meters aren't tracking well. And so this is a potential source of funding and revenues that we can use to replace at least some of the water meters throughout the city. And so that would be a public improvement project listed under that category on page 68, the water meter replacement project. Both of these have very different kinds of benefits to the community. Obviously, the Grove multifamily project is something that we committed to previously as an affordable housing project. That particular one goes to serve formerly unhoused residents of our community. And the Darlene Spohr, their executive director, provided us a summary of improvements that couldn't get completed in the original Home Key project, as well as some rehabilitation work that they need to do on the project. Her limit comes out to about $3.4 million. We actually only have about $2.9 million in the grant to do. So if you wanted to direct us to fund the Grove, we would be suggesting that we fund that at $2.9 million and thin up the list of rehabilitation projects. And then for the water meter replacement project, the CDBG funding would really go to offset funds that we would either have to borrow through the state water fund or funds that we would take directly out of our water enterprise funds. And so it would be a possible offset for local funding to use the federal funding to get this much needed water replacement project. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the number was about $200,000 difference in water meter reads, we think, or more, 200 or more thousand. So it's not insignificant. I just wanted to stress that as well. So of the projects that have come up so far, we would recommend a project, a program, and a planning in either this grouping or that grouping, one or two. But we do want to stress that this is a scoping hearing and we want to hear all the great ideas that are going to come out tonight before we make a final recommendation. Lastly, the timeline. We're starting actually February 4, 2026 on this timeline, but I was just thinking and talking with Councilmember Atkins Salazar earlier today, and we actually started the scoping for the 2025 February of last year, and it took CDBG a little while to get their NOFA out. It's now actually 2026, and we're doing the 2025 NOFA. So our first scoping meeting were held back in 2025, but more recently we noticed for February 4, 2026, we held that council meeting. You took some input there. We separately noticed a public meeting in the library conference room, which Jen and Sarah Kuna staffed and took public input there. This is our third scoping meeting, publicly noticed scoping meeting. And what we're asking for, if you feel comfortable tonight directing us to notice for either, 1, 2, or something else that you'd rather have us notice for, but to notice that hearing for March 18th so we can come back and get authorization to apply for that grouping of applications. And then we will apply by the 3rd of April, which is the deadline to apply for. I do want to acknowledge that you're getting these recommendations in this meeting. You haven't had a whole lot of time to think about them. If you do feel like you need additional time to reconsider them, we can continue the item to the 26th for your study session that you're having with the chairs. And that is an option. And of course, if you feel confident and comfortable with making a recommendation tonight, we'd be happy to take that as well. So we'd be happy to answer any questions and then love to turn it over to the public.
All right. If it is all right with you guys, what I think I'd like to do before we start digging in on options 1 and 2 would be to hear from the public in case there are new ideas that we want to consider. But maybe if we could pull up the slide that has 1 or 2 so that if folks have an opinion on which one of those we should consider, they can also give that to us. So we will now be taking public comment on this item. So please go ahead and come up, line up behind the podium or raise your hand. Thank you.
Hi, if these are the only choices being recommended currently, and I know input's going to be gained another time, but my name's Joanne McGarry, and I have been following the Regional Climate Action Plan, and everything that comes forward in these public meetings, I keep thinking about that plan. And so my tendency is to lean toward water meter replacement. If this is the big project with the big bucks, as opposed to, once again, providing Arcata House with money from the city. They've received a lot of money from the city in the past, and most recently for, the opioid settlement monies. And I do think there's other places that they can find some funding for what they need to do. And I just think long-term and for the future, water is life. And we're talking about the cost of water to our citizenry and having accurate measurements of these types of things for ongoing into the future, because with climate change, droughts and floods, it really is important that we monitor and people know how much water is being used by themselves and by the community at large. I came from Santa Barbara, and that is a huge issue. And don't think just because we get a lot more rain or whatever here in Redwood country, that water isn't going to be an issue in the future. And our ability to more accurately monitor it is really important to me. And the Climate Action Plan will probably be something to look at in terms of why I'm saying this and why this might be a wiser use of these CDBG grant monies.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tabitha Miller, Assistant City Manager and Finance Director. And I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk a little bit about why I proposed that this project be added to the potential list of applications this evening. So we have spent well over a year talking about our aging infrastructure for our water fund and the financial impacts to that and the need to raise rates, and the water meters are part of that. It's been something that I, during my time at the city, have really paid attention to and really felt like we needed to sort of address and put in the plan to make sure that we replace those. And part of the reason is that if you go back to our rate study, fair and equitable apportionment of the cost is part of it. Cost recovery is the second, which means that all of the cost of our water infrastructure, when we replace it, if we can't get grants or other outside funding, it has to be paid by the ratepayers. So I think that's important to remember. The average single-family residential bill is 25% of a fixed cost. That's that $12.23 they pay a month, and 75% is the volume or variable cost, the use of the water. So it's a really big piece of the average homeowner or tenant's bill. And when water meters age, they slow down measuring and they sometimes stop. And I know we bill on a monthly basis many accounts that have zero usage, that we believe there's usage, but there's nothing that's being measured. We also know that we have pretty significant loss in our system. The last calculation I had was above 30%. Of course, some of that is from the other aspect of our aging infrastructure, which is water leaks, breaks, and even some of it is things like fighting fires. But we know that there's water that is running through meters that's not being paid for. We as part of our steel water line replacement project, we've got, I believe, about 700 meters that we're replacing. And we've already started that process, and we've got a couple examples that kind of point out the reason or the need for this. The first one is we've had people come in and complain that their bill went up. It doubled, when their meter was replaced. And in talking to them, what we're finding is that it's they probably weren't paying the right amount. When we ask how many people are in the house, what kind of house it is, what their habits are, it's clear that they were underpaying. The average person uses about 2 HCF or 100 cubic feet acre a month. So if you have 5 people, you're going to probably use 10. The second thing that we're finding is that we're replacing meters. We're putting in our new smart meters that have the ability to provide lots of feedback and information. And we're recognizing leaks that are happening on the other side. So on the customer side, where they're paying for water that they're not using. And I think that's another important part of the meter replacement program is providing tools to our consumers so that they know what they're paying for and why they're paying for it.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online?
No, we do not.
Okay, so we have 2 really hard choices, 2 good ones. So thoughts, questions?
Were these 2 particular scenarios presented at the yesterday's meeting for the public to weigh in on number 1 and number 2?
They were, and interestingly enough, both of them were the top picks from participants at that meeting. So that doesn't give you much direction. I'm sorry.
Oh, so not one or the other.
No.
So, great. So, with the water meters, so first of all, is there more feasibility of getting these grants for 1 versus 2? I mean, do we have a good chance of getting both of them?
We do have a good chance of getting both of them. I went through the scoring criteria for each, and they would score almost identically as far as competitiveness. They're a little different in different areas, but where one scores high and the other scores low, it's opposite further down in the scoring criteria. So they would score very similarly.
Can I ask one more question and then okay. With the water meter replacement, so that also comes with the possibility of increasing revenue to our water fund. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right.
So I was thinking about Glass Beach in Fort Bragg, and I remember when that, it was years ago, but when that community went in, it was a subdivision, it was all automatically red, and I assume that made a big difference down there for the future, because you didn't have to have anyone go read your meters. And but I was wondering about how much it costs for each replacement of a water meter. And does this include replacing everyone's water meters?
We estimate that the total project would probably be between $7 and $8 million. And that's all of the meters except for those that have been included in the current steel line water replacement program. So, it's roughly, 6,000 meters that we would be replacing. And so the cost, and I could probably, if I wasn't nervous and could give you a rough number here, what it would cost per, understanding that meter size and type is going to make a difference on those 2.
Well, I think just knowing that it's half the funding. Right?
It's roughly half the funding.
And do you know where the other half would come from?
So there's a couple possibilities. We are looking at through the state SRV, the clean water loans that we've gotten for other water and wastewater projects. We would believe that we have the possibility to get some or of the matching funds from that, and then anything left over would be out of the water fund, which would be passed on through the rates. But if we could get some of it to offset the cost to the ratepayers, we would be happy.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that we can get more money if we start replacing some of the infrastructure that we need to replace. That's why we haven't been able to get some grants before is
Mostly some of the reasons we haven't been able to get the grants is that the rates don't support our current operations, and they don't support repayment of some of the low cost loans and interest. They want, one of the kind of baseline pieces is that they want to know that we are sustainable and that we can move forward and that we can cover the cost of our system into the future, including future.
and this would help.
And this would be part of that. And so I would also just want to make sure that everybody knows that this currently isn't in our 5-year capital plan. It's actually in the next 5-year cycle. This would be trying to move it up and do it sooner, which does mean we would be shuffling the projects as far as staff resources and those sorts of things. But we do believe that the true up on revenue and the fairness to ratepayers as far as being more equitable and just the additional revenue would certainly be an offset. And an example of this is that we're currently doing mid-year, and I had to actually reduce our revenue projections for the water fund by $100,000 because we're just not we're not there.
I wanted to point out too, and I may have misunderstood your question, Councilmember Matthews, but we won't be generating more revenue. We'll be balancing our revenue because we're paying for the water, and right now we're not recapturing the revenue for those. I just wanted to make that clear. Okay, you understood that. Great.
So I was just thinking about our sewage laterals, that when you sell a house, you have to, and I was thinking, well, maybe you have to replace your water meter too. I mean, now I think we have an ordinance that everyone that sells a building, they have to do a sewer lateral change, check it all out. But I'm also thinking maybe we want to do a sewer, a water meter replacement too. I don't know if that's a possibility, but I just thought about that.
I think that if we had started that 10, 15 years ago, it would probably make sense. Nature's not here right now, and I'm not sure if Emily has any ideas about that, but I think we're at a point where, this is kind of a critical need. And so, I think that whether we do all of the meters right now and have some support from CDBG, or whether we decide that, hey, we need to start a program and start replacing, the worst of our meters and making sure that we're recouping those costs, it seems like to me that this is an important high priority one way or the other. If we do it, if we just stagger them, like when properties sell, it'll just take too long to replace the critical ones. So we can do that, but I wouldn't think that would be our only strategy.
Well, I would agree, but I'm thinking that could be a strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And because it's made a difference as far as our doing sewer laterals, and then you find out what else is going on that's causing problems and what's hooked up to it that shouldn't be, etc., to our sewer system. So still, as far as the Grove and the multifamily rehabilitation, there's actually about 16 units there that aren't being utilized. And I think about the fact that we've been doing a lot of work around, well, they call it, I think it's the North 40. I always think it should be the South 40. But we've been wanting to clean up some properties for our property owners in town that have other ideas on how they want to manage their properties. And at this point with the Arcata house, we're missing 16 units that could be utilized by people that need housing, that are homeless. So it's a difficult situation. And I did bring that up because I thought it was important that we think about fulfilling that goal, because that is a project that we've been working on and we helped get that started, and we know housing is a shortage.
Yeah, I would add to that, Councilmember Stillman, that the Grove, when it was converted to a home key project, it had several things on the list of fixes that needed to be done to really make it functional that exceeded the amount that we could get through the home key project, or grant rather. And so this project really reflects in a lot of ways those leftover tasks that just didn't get done. So it's the majority of the funds that they're requesting are investments that should have been made the first time around. They also have a fairly extensive solar project that they'd like to do. Right now, many of the people who live in the facility don't pay any rent because they don't have any income. And that's one of the requirements of the home key projects, is that, you don't turn people away for not having income. And so in order to make the project work, like, they can't just turn to PG&E and say, well, we're not getting rent, so we're not paying our PG&E. They still have to pay PG&E. So the solar panels will help to offset the cost of their utilities, making their overall operations budget lower, and to help that pencil. So I think there's, in addition to the 16 units that need significant rehab, there are both improvements that will help the facility pencil overall, continue to operate, and things that they knew they needed right from the start, including most of them are ADA upgrades.
Also, they do have solar, but it's not functioning correctly, or to its capacity, I guess would be a word to use. And it needs to be functioning at its capacity in order to deal with PG&E. Right or wrong, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but that's my understanding.
Well, Councilmember Stillman and I were in a homelessness service meeting today when this subject matter did come up. And one of the things that we were talking about is, although there's funding right now, which I'll share out later on my report out, for the emergency weather shelters, the extreme weather shelters, there really isn't any money in the foreseeable future for this project, for housing. Our government just isn't prioritizing this. So if we don't opt to do this, then there's a very good chance that it just won't get done. So that is additional pressure, on this journey that we kind of started with them. And it is 16 units. So that's what I'm also struggling with.
I will say, regardless, I am very happy to see something going on with Little Lake. So thanks, Deputy Community Development Director Dart, for suggesting that, because I know that's something that we've been really excited about for a long time. So thank you.
So I have a question. We have two good items, and I feel like we're struggling, because if we weren't struggling, a motion would have already been made. So maybe are we wanting to have a full 5 of us here to weigh in on this, or would anybody like to make a motion?
Well, I was wondering, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was wondering if we can make a motion for the last 2 items that show up in each one of those, and then possibly bring back the other 2 with a full council.
I actually think that's a really good idea. I think I personally am leaning to the water meter replacement. I'm not sure where your heads are at, but it does seem that if there's a way to have another meeting to get more people, I'm fine either way. I feel pretty confident with the water meter replacement, but if that's not the way that the other 2 go, I'm happy to discuss it, hear a little bit more public comment, and talk about it at the next meeting.
Well, is it possible to consider the last 2, program business assistance and planning for Little Lake, and make those 2 of the ones that probably everyone will agree, if there are 5 people here, or just us 3, and then look at the other 2 at our next meeting?
Yeah, you could do it either way. You could direct us to notice those 2, and then we're actually going to wait until we get the full recommendation to send the notice. So you could also just wait to take final action until you're all together again.
I think we should move it to our next agenda. I think we probably have a split vote. Well, or at least I'm probably going to vote for one, and maybe Meredith's going to vote for the other. And then we have a tie.
Well, you have me, but
No, but you're the tiebreaker. I was going to say, and we have a tie.
yes.
So then you're the tiebreaker. Anyway,
Which I'm sure she'd be very comfortable with, and I'm fine either way.
Well, if we were, I feel like if we were all 3 easily in agreement, I would just say let's go ahead and vote on it. But because there is hesitation and we have time, then let's just bring it back to, I won't be here at the next meeting. But you'll have 4 people.
Yeah, we would actually propose, since you already have the study session with the chairs, that you hold a short meeting at the beginning of that. So is everyone going to be here on the 26th?
I
And
will
we
be-
can make a recommendation at that meeting?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we actually would need you to because we need to get the notice in.
I think I will be here at that meeting. Mhm. I will.
Just to confirm, are we talking about a 5 p.m. time similar to?
so do I need to make a motion to punt this?
I don't know. They were conferring, so I was just waiting to see
Yeah,
what.
was there a question? I'm sorry.
No, we were just what.
What do we do? Should we make a motion that we're going to wait until the February 26th meeting? Or should we
You
just
would
move-
want to make a motion to continue to the 26th.
I-
We were just checking time.
I'm wondering if we can start at 4:30.
That's a whole other doodle poll, man. We already all committed that.
Well, we all said 5 o'clock. Oh. You know, we all have other lives somewhere.
Okay.
I was thinking if we have our chairs coming at 5, we just go ahead and honor 5 for them and that we, as a council, meet earlier. Is that
Yes, so it
possible?
would be a special meeting at 5 p.m. in the council chamber on February 26th that the public hearing would be continued to.
So we do it all at 5 o'clock. We couldn't meet a little earlier.
The agenda has not been noticed yet, so it's at the council's discretion during future meetings later on. If you want to clarify that the study session starts later, then that may be an option.
I think the point that was brought up, I can't remember who said it because I heard it out of the side of my ear, but that everyone confirmed for 5 o'clock already. So maybe you should start this at 5. We'll try and get it done in a half an hour. The other council members can watch this meeting to, hear and think, and then be prepared to come and take action.
Okay, I was just thinking that we'd have all the chairs of all our committees here at the same time. So,
We'll let them know that there's going to be a really important business right
Okay.
before they start.
thank
All
you.
right, I will make a motion to postpone this meeting to a time certain of February 26th at 5 o'clock p.m.
And just to confirm, we're continuing the public hearing. And
Continuing the public hearing. Yes, thank you, Rhea.
okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we don't have any new business, so that will take us to oral and written communications. This is a continued item from earlier. Again, the city council values your comments, and the public comment period allows people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the agenda, although the council may respond to statements. So for those wanting to speak in this portion, now would be the time to line up.
Everybody's playing in the snow. My name's Joanne McCary. Gosh, I wasn't prepared for things to happen so quickly. I guess one of the things that I have shared with you in the past is that I want our community, our city, to be put on the map for really important things, and things that most of the community really supports. And I just want to say that what happens here in our community, whether it's a fire or a flood or a death of a college student, these are all important issues that we need to deal with. But that doesn't exclude us from really recognizing what we do and how we feel about what's happening even globally, that, the people in our community care and have a need to make sure that our voices are heard on things. So I just want to say that when we come to you, it's not to ask for performative things that really don't have any substance or meat to them, and we just say them, kind of like sometimes I feel some ceremonial matters actually are rather performative. But I really do want to encourage you to recognize that we are a global community, and we here really care about so many issues and places and people all over the world in what's happening. So if people come to you and ask, can we put this on the agenda? It's not because we just want to say, oh, well, we got it here. Because we really want our voice to go out there and say, we care here. And so I'm talking about things like ceasefires and Venezuela resolutions and, other matters that happen. And so I will end this by just saying it's not performative for us to join over 243 cities around the world to be an international city of peace. It's not performative. These people are doing substantial things in their communities and united around the world for peace. And Charter for Compassion and Nonviolent City Project. Minneapolis is a nonviolent city on the Pace Yveni Nonviolent City Project. So we can do this and join so many other around the world, and really we care, and we want to say that out loud.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Tricia Murphy, and I'm here to express my support for a sister city with Gaza, and to say there has been no ceasefire in Israel. Israel has not kept their end of the deal. They continue to murder people in Gaza every day. There's over 600 people that they know that Israel has killed since the ceasefire was called, and 2,000 people injured. This is a typical thing that happens with Israel. There's sort of a running joke. The ceasefire, when Israel makes it, means you cease and we continue to fire. And that's what's happening. The ceasefire was supposed to go into effect October 10th. They're still keeping aid from the people there. They still don't have medicines just to keep people under anesthesia when they're going through surgeries. There's still catastrophic loss of limbs and life. They're out in tents that they've had for almost 3 years now. Their tents are not keeping the water out. They're not keeping any heat in. There is no heat to be had. This is the third winter they're enduring, and Israel continues to bomb them and mass murder them, not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank. In the West Bank, settlers are going around with clubs. They were armed at the beginning of this. Ben Gvir passed out automatic rifles, and the settlers are pretty much backed by the IDF in the West Bank, where there is no Hamas. The IDF has been training our ICE officers here in our country. The IDF trains them, and they're training roughly 20,000 police officers in the United States per year. I don't know if people know that. DHS has its headquarters in Tel Aviv, and I would really support anything that we could do in a resolution to uncouple from Israel. I support boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. If you go online, BDS it's a peaceful way to bring Israel down and keep them from committing these mass murders that they're committing, not only in occupied Palestine, but in Venezuela. They're burning the Patagonian forest because they want that land cheap. They're trying to take over Cyprus. They have created a Somaliland where they're planning to put a bunch of Palestinians. They've caused death and destruction in the Congo for their diamond trade. They've caused the ruin of Libya, now Syria. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in person? Okay, moving to our online comments.
We do not have any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. So that takes us to our city manager's report.
Thank you, Councilmember Salazar. Just a couple of things to report tonight. One, I just wanted to remind the public that we have the water rate study workshop, and that'll be on February 25th at 5:30 at the D Street Community Center. That's the one that our Assistant City Manager Miller reminded everybody about, that they could come to learn more about the water rates, calculate what their rates are, and give them opportunity to have a little more interaction with staff on water rates. So again, February 25th at 5:30 at the D Street Community Center. I will just say I did attend the Homeless Services Working Group. I won't report out on that. I know Councilmember Atkins Salazar has some things to report on that. And then last week I did attend the League of California City Managers Conference, and it was a really great conference. It focused on a number of things, ranging from really just some of the more softer skills than a technical and legal updates, but some of the ones that I had a number of takeaways included disaster preparedness, building culture and the importance of that within a city, and then succession planning for small and rural cities, all of which had a number of really valuable lessons that I'll be bringing back and integrating into what I'm doing here at the city. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Matthews, we'll move on to councilmember reports.
All right, I will keep it brief. I'm the vice chair of REDAC this year, which again, I'm really so excited to be serving on that JPA. We did have an executive committee meeting last week and voted on approving a loan. We had the Arcata Chamber Awards last weekend, and it was really wonderful to see some of our local businesses recognized. And I would like to once again recognize Siva from Hensel's Ace Hardware for winning Business of the Year through the City of Arcata. Siva, we have your award. Come pick it up. Please reach out to me. I've been trying to get a hold of you. So again, all the winners and everybody that was nominated and all the business in Arcata, thank you so much. That's it.
That was a wonderful event. It was different than we've had in the past, and I think it worked really well that we didn't have a sit-down dinner, but we had more of a casual kind of event, and people loved talking to each other. It was quite busy, humming away. So I wanted to say that tomorrow I'm going to attend the HCOG meeting because our mayor is not able to do so, and neither is our assistant mayor. And so FOAM, I went to their meeting, but we also, Sue Liskew, who is the treasurer for FOAM, Friends of the Arcata Marsh, she had a special event honoring all the new members who have joined FOAM. And she had this goal of 35 new members, and she ended up with over 50 new members. So she had an event that was a lot of fun. Besides that, I've been attending various homeless services meetings, Continuum of Care. I went to 2 of those. I went to the Arcata House Partnership meeting, and today I had a meeting with our homeless services, which you're going to talk about.
All right. Thank you. So I will start with that. Today we had a really robust meeting. One of the things we discussed was the extreme weather shelter, and it has been open, just the Arcata House Partnership one has been open for 29 nights already in this year. And as Director Spohr said, it would actually have been open even more, but there were nights that people weren't interested. Those were probably the nights that weren't as rough as we've had. So I think 29, nights open is it's a good thing. And recently, because of the extreme weather we've had, they've been having about 60 people a night taking shelter. And they've also been having a warming center every day since the beginning of the year. So we do have that space in the mornings for part of the day for folks to go and get warm. I was also at the Chamber Mixer and Awards dinner. It was lots of fun. For HWMA, we went over audit, which was good, and it's nice stepping onto a committee and knowing that it's in good financial shape. learned about carpet recycling. So you can have your carpet and underlayment recycled for it's $2 for up to 400 pounds, which is it's like the cost of a regular room is usually under that. So for $2, if you bring your rolled up carpet in, and they ask that it's backing out the back side of it out, they can recycle it for $2. So that's a pretty good deal. We also discussed trying to get prepared for SB 1383. And then I also serve on the Heavy Lift Marine Terminal Community Advisory Committee at the harbor. And that's separate from, it's related to, but separate from offshore wind. And we're there. I serve on the committee that's just talking about advising for the restructuring and remodeling of that port. So one thing that I wanted to let people know is that right now they're taking comments for CEQA, and they're preparing for permitting. Maybe I should just read it off here. So this is the time in the permitting that they're taking comments. So there's a lot of people that think that the project's not going to happen, and it may or may not happen. But the point is, if it does happen, even if it's quite a ways into the future, this is the time to make the comments. So even if you think it's not going to happen, but you have opinions on it, it is important that you comment on it now, or that window will be closed. And what I was impressed by is the Harbor District really is trying to work with folks ahead of time. There have been a lot of concerns brought up, and they're working with community members to try to address those concerns prior to even to the CEQA process. So they really are wanting to have those dialogues and see what they can work out. So please be sure to reach out if that's something that you're interested in or have concerns in. And did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I was just thinking about what you're saying about the marine. We had a speaker at the American Association of University Women who was talking about how part of what they're doing out at Terloniker Lab in Trinidad and in the ocean is that they've been doing a lot of testing, and they're able to do that now. They haven't done it for, they started, I don't know how many years ago, but it hasn't been really long. But it'll give all this information for the future when we have wind energy, which he expects will happen. Maybe a full build out would be 30 or 40 years from now. And they will also know what kind of invertebrates or fish or shellfish or something would attach themselves to some of the wind energy, whatever their structure is like. And so I thought that was interesting because there's a lot of prep going on for this future industry from many different points of view, and Cal Poly is definitely into that as far as oceanography is concerned.
Thank you. So we do have dates of future meetings and to consider. The first is to schedule an annual study session with the committee and commission chairpersons for February 26th at 5 p.m. in the council chambers, and that's the one we've been talking about this evening. And then also to confirm, we have 3 budget study sessions for April 6th, 8th, and 29th, all starting at 3:30 here in the council chambers. So, any comments on those?
I do know I won't be here for the 29th.
Okay. We okay? All right. And I know I've already said I won't be here for one of the, whatever, I think it's the 6th is on a Monday, and I won't be at that one. We don't have anything for closed session, so no session report outs, and we will go ahead and adjourn. So thank you.